Hello, everybody. I am not sure what the hell happened, but I am here. At least I think I am. Let me know in the chat if I'm not here. All right, everybody, I got to play some commercials. Well, not commercials. I got to pay some bills.
You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat Show.
The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Yeah, the one, the only Sportcat. I won't say I'm not imitated or replicated because I may be a clone right now. I don't know what the hell happened. Right before going on air, there was a brilliant white flash, and then this noise came through my computer that I have no idea what the hell it was. Actually, it was only coming through the headphones. So maybe I was being probed. I don't know. At any rate, I encourage everybody to come over and find us on the YouTubes. We're live on the Paranormal Guys with a Z. We got a great chat. Denise is here. Welcome, Denise. Chris is here. And Chris obviously is listening to Yergs. Yes, we were talking about the number 25, the Word Amendment. Yeah, so all right. Yes, it is showtime. I'm going to try and do something right. Goodness gracious. So let's see. Chris says, don't know if you have any current info. I saw there's a possible active shooter at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. No, I had not seen or heard that. So we'll just take a little gander around the web because God knows I'm already off of, I'm already off schedule. And I really don't know what happened. Last night on the Paranormal Guys show, things went nuts. I could see and hear everything, but they couldn't see nor hear me. It was the strangest thing. So I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened. And then today, like I said, the bright flash was here inside the house, and then the computer just went absolutely nuts. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything on X about it, Chris. I did see, well, wait a minute. Nope, possible active shooter 40 seconds ago on the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga campus. Okay. And Chattanooga, Tennessee reported a situation at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. It's been reported by Chattanooga police on X. Campus is currently on lockdown. Okay, well, that's interesting. And there's a large police presence, as there should be. And Tennessee is a very odd place to have a mass shooting. But yeah, there's pictures of the students being evacuated, coming down out of the buildings in lines. And yeah, there's somebody else live about it. So, but the coverage here will be much better. Let's see something here. I don't know if I can on this computer. I know I can at home on the laptop. I can bring up the police radio to see if there's anything interesting going on there. And WBIR out of Knoxville hasn't reported it yet, which, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. No, that's not what I want. Search United States, Tennessee, see if there's any audio available in the area, and we'll just drop in. And what county is that? Is that Bradley County? Chattanooga is in what county? I should know this. And it is what county? Brock City? Yeah. What county? I need to know for the police. Hamilton. There we go. All right. I should know that. I really should. Let's see if there's any. Oh, wow. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Chattanooga Police.
For that right now.
Let's see. I don't know. Can you? Is that going out over the air?
Can you advise your hat, Erlanger? Any unit on Charlie Channel, any unit on Charlie Building for any available unit that can start in the Erlanger downtown reports of shots fired in the parking lot.
Oh, wow. Did we hear? Did that go out?
I'm in Erlanger.
Well, apparently you heard it live right there. Now they have shots fired at Erlanger in the parking lot of the hospital. Did I just kill the app? No, I didn't. All right. Wow, that just went out live. So we will keep that on because that's quite scary. And so what you're listening to, I have to identify this for people that are on the radio only side. I have brought up, let's see, I can do this. I have brought up a police scanner app, and I'm listening to the county or Hamilton County Public Safety. And
able to go ahead.
yeah, see, this is what happens.
Command. Erlanger, just have them go back to the main channel. Keep this one cleared for this.
I'm clear.
Location, we just had a look like overhead service, possible electrical situation going on out here on the main line. So go ahead and start EPP. We got a little flame going right now.
Okay.
Well, I said now everybody's talking at once, and that becomes a problem. So, and that's not uncommon.
We got officers on scenes reporting no shots fired.
Well, that's good news.
No.
Clear.
That's very good news.
687 413 in Colony, Georgia, involved an officer. Any injuries? Start EMS. Clear for the officer or civilian. Several parties, just start EMS. Clear.
So I'm just
63, we got 300 students coming straight to Mox alumni from Crossroads, being by officers.
okay. So
Also, EPP, we had a breaker that popped on the pole on the poles here at this location. Random to CP.
all right.
Can
So
you possibly give me a poll number?
it's kind of weird. The same time that they had this incident happen, I had the white flash here in the studio, and it went nuts. I'm looking to see if there's any helicopter traffic over the area, and I'm not seeing any.
It's just advised having crisis to make officers aware.
So apparently somebody.
We have 5 students from the high school that are missing in the Lufkin building. We're heading with the guy that's in charge to the CP now.
I'm clear. Do you need more officers, or do you have enough groups in our Lufkin building?
Just me and Brown County. Four. Repeating. Poll number. Poll 1.
Okay, so he's telling the poll number so they can get the power company in route. That is
officers okay out here.
a TVA
Clear,
helicopter.
officer is involved in the crash.
So now that see, this is what happens when you have one incident, things go to hell. They've had an officer involved in a crash and they're requesting EMS. They had a poll.
Nobody was answering on 3. Have any county SWAT coming into Erlanger 418 with me outside the ER at the ambulance bay. We'll consolidate here.
And they've had reports of shots fired at Erlanger Hospital and the University of Tennessee Police Department, or campus. I got too many windows open here. I hope it doesn't crash the system. Let's see. Let's update this. Go back over to X real quick because we heard that breaking as it came out. I'm not one usually for normally covering breaking news like this, but we just happened to fall in at the right time. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, happening now. We see the that's a TikTok video. Of course, they have all kinds of police and fire there, and they're going to have people shelter in place till they can get to them and tell them to leave.
Any unit on Charlie that was possibly en route to Erlanger for the shot fired call, slow your traffic. But I have not heard anything, and he's been outside at the time. Slow your traffic if you were headed to Erlanger downtown.
Okay, so we still think that Erlanger downtown may not be an incident.
R233, I'm out here with this crash at Georgia.
Clear.
And
54, go ahead.
let's see, it's under lockdown. We know that. an active shooter at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And trying to see here if there's
command post.
So it sounds
Oh,
as
yeah.
though
Go ahead. Cover.
Contact team, go ahead.
it sounds as though Erlanger is
Oh, is it flash traffic?
not an incident, but they're still
You see Billy Vick.
sounds like they're still trying to
I just got a call from Corporal Bear. He's trying to request officers, some assistance at the Mox alumni side of the university.
Did he say the mosque?
Out of here.
I'm not trying to.
What building was that? It's the University Center, the main entrance on Moxonai Drive by the bookstore.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Og, if this is you to go up to the third floor.
And here's another problem with our communications.
99 in the UC.
This is the other problem with our communication systems in public safety. We utilize digital. And so just like digital, you're hearing me now. When I'm talking, you can't talk. And the computer is receiving it. And there's always a delay. And it'll clip you out if you just dropped a little bit of signal. So Chris says he saw a video posted allegedly by a mother with a student there. She is saying this is not confirmed. And Chris says, mother says her son attends and the key cards have been shut off, which means, according to her, if you leave where you are, you will not be able to get back in. And she says 1 to 4 people have been shot. That's unconfirmed. We don't have any reliable sources saying that. So, I'm so jealous of that. Right there.
Okay, correction, Georgia McCauley to Baker, if that's okay with you.
I'm so jealous of that. I got to say
The
that.
officers
Sorry.
respond to the reunification point just as.
So the unification point is the area where they bring the students back out and they reunite them with family or school officials, and they basically check and see if they know anything. So, of course, we're talking about a football game in here in the middle of all this. So, I guess I could narrow it down by putting in Chattanooga and see if we get anything. Yeah, currently the University of Tennessee campus is on lockdown as police clear the building during an active shooter alert. So, yeah, I know, Chris. I need to, and I need to get it before season so I can make fun of Bobby. So I'm looking here and it says Chattanooga PD is working with UT campus PD to confirm shots fired, the reports that were called in at this time. This is 45 minutes ago, so this isn't really up to date. It says there are no victims. So that's from there. Local 3 News says it's alert and it's unfolding. And I'm trying to update this as it goes. Yeah, we don't want to show that, whatever the hell that is. That's one bad thing I hate about whenever you have a breaking incident, you have the scammers break in with the words or hashtags. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else updated here. We're going to wonder if I'm not going to open another tab. I'm pushing my luck right now with it. Yeah, we'll just scan by that. And all right, well, if we don't hear anything here in the next few minutes, by the way, if anybody wants to, you can find me at Sportcat on X. If you want to shoot me a message. Chris, thank you for the tip. We started the show off with a bang, literally. So there we go. So, and well, that's the flooding in Chattanooga that was taking place a couple days ago. So, all right. And make sure that we're on the right screen there. And they're still working to clear the buildings. That's the last update we got from 16 minutes ago. That was from Breaking Now, which was retweeting it from WTVC, which I assume is a local channel. And
360.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is what I want right here. And
Time to contact me and get this information.
Okay.
they're wanting people to go to
25 to Union 91.
the main campus so they can have a press conference. And Chris says, alert all individuals on the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga campus should remain on lockdown. Do not move unless you are directed to do so by the law enforcement agencies. Campus facilities are currently being searched. All right, so we'll flip over here. I'm just trying to see if there's been any update. 13 minutes ago, there's some video from the scene. This is from Channel 3 Local.
Copy.
And by the way,
evacuating. They will get an all clear, and then they'll say whatever they want.
Okay.
and their Channel 3 there.
I'm going to the CP to all UTC heads. We have individuals in every building on campus. Have them stay put for now. We are going to clear everyone shortly.
Man, all you
See, the command shouldn't be breaking up like that. They should have a command bus set up that has a better communication.
Clear to UC for still inside.
you're buzzing.
Contact 4 is still inside.
And here's some photos.
And
You can see there the massive response.
or the utility.
I gotta say, their communications suck. I'm not trying to be critical of them, but their communications are not very good. If that is the same thing they're hearing on scene.
522 inside the library, right by the entrance in Chamberlain.
If that's what they're hearing there at the location, it is horrible. Their communication system sucks. And I can see
the Crossroads. We have 3 coming out.
I can say that because I have been in public safety. I know what it's like to need to tell dispatch something and the radio just beeps every time you try and get in contact with dispatch. It is so frustrating, especially when you need help quickly. So, yeah, exactly. And what makes it work for police is most officers have that just in an earpiece inside their ear. Now, as fire EMS, we don't do that. We have microphones usually on a strap in front of us. But yeah, that's exactly what you hear. And when you're trying to communicate, and a lot of times this happens with digital communications inside of brick.
All right, CP to all units, CP to all units. All buildings are clear. All buildings are here. We can all get back in service.
Okay, so that was CP command post.
Be advised there's a large amount of students coming from Lawton.
So CP is advising, command post is advising, all clear. So it sounds like this was just we'll call it a good intent call. But to get back to my point, the digital communications are anywhere from 800 megahertz up to 1.2 gigahertz. And the signal is narrower, which means it's smaller, and it can't transmit through through metal for one thing. But when you have concrete, brick type structures, the signal is lessened as it goes through the building, and that's what you're hearing is the degradation. Like if you see me freeze on your screen and you get the circle or I get pixelated, that's the same thing with audio for police, for public safety. And a lot of departments in a situation like this, they'll bring out a command bus that has a dedicated antenna that's raised up so it helps to receive the signal. And in some buildings, and this one should be one, the UT Police Department should be able to flip a switch and activates antennas that are in the building that can receive the signal to push it out. Now, I don't know that they have that, but a lot of, especially like New York with these skyscrapers and stuff like that, they have that capability in a lot of the higher skyscrapers, because a digital signal doesn't transmit like a traditional AM FM signal where it spreads out. A digital is a straight line of sight. So that, I'm sorry if I'm being too nerdy on you guys with radio.
Dispatch, if we have workers wanting back in the UC or
so it sounds like maybe what happened, and I'm just going to speculate, and I'm going to go ahead and shut this down.
No, do not let them back in.
So since it sounds like everything is all clear, and it sounds like Erlanger Hospital is also a no call. It sounds like what may have happened is a transformer may have blown, and somebody heard the explosion and thought we have an active shooting on campus. So there you go. Hopefully they'll continue to investigate and find that it is nothing, a no incident, a good intent call, as we like to call it. And one good thing that comes out of this is training. They now know their communications suck. They've got to do something about it. And during a situation like this, especially when we look at it, they had the active shooting at the campus. Then they had a reported shooting at Erlanger ER, which is a total different location. And then they had an officer responding at a high rate of speed, probably, emergency, blue lights and sirens. And he was involved in a crash. So you have three things right there. And that taxes a system. What I'm mean by taxes, you only have so many units to respond to one thing. Now you have three pretty significant incidents. So, and Lord knows they probably had a ton of other alarms sounding, fire detectors going off, CO detectors going off, medical calls. So all that. And this is why when you go to work on a 24-hour shift as a firefighter, no day is ever the same. That's a good thing and a bad thing. And you become an adrenaline junkie and you get used to it. You go from hours of absolute sheer boredom to seconds later intense terror. It really is strange, but I loved it. So, all right, well, let's get on with our regular thing. Let's see. It's still 10:56 a.m. in Los Angeles. Denver, good morning, 11:56. Chris, up there in Chicago, you're at 12:57. And our friends down under in Sydney, it's 3:57 a.m. Good morning to you. And in Perth, it is 1:57 a.m. Good morning to you all. I hope you all are having a great day, and I hope you all are safe. I still don't see any helicopters, which is really weird because you would think most major incidents would bring a state police helicopter or a sheriff or city police helicopter, but I don't see one. So, all right, we'll move on from that. And let's get into what we normally do. Chris, thank you. That's great. I enjoyed that. Not trying to sensationalize the event, but it's good to be able to come out and have something breaking and kind of cover it. And maybe I provided a little insight into the weird world of public safety. So, all right, so let's go back in history like we always do. We are way behind, and I hope that Radio Australia keeps me on, but we're going to try it and see what happens. We're just going to take over Jurg's radio. We'll just let him deal with the fallout. So, all right, so today in history, 1703, Erdney incident, a Turkish army oust Sultan Mustafa II, replacing him with his brother Ahmed III, reducing the power of the Sultan. 1772, King Gustav III of Sweden completes a coup defeat, adopting a new constitution and installing himself as an enlightened despot, ending 50 years of parliamentary rule. In 1888, American inventor William Seward Burroughs patents the adding machine. I think it was way back before the calculator. 1911, the Mona Lisa is stolen from the Louvre Museum by an Italian decorator, Vincenzo Parago, and was recovered in 1913. 1959, we welcomed Hawaii to the 50th state in the Union. 1991, conservative coup in the Soviet Union is crushed by popular resistance led by Boris Yeltsin in 3 days. 2020, Korean pop BTS releases the single Dynamite, the first video to be watched by more than 100 million times in 24 hours on YouTube, and I still haven't seen it. 2001, How You Remind Me, a single released by Nickelback, is the song of the year. And in 1986, Ian Botham takes his world record 356th Test cricket widget against New Zealand at the Oval. All right, let's see what else is going on in the world. Let's see, we talked about the revolution, and in 1831, Nat Turner launches a rebellion of enslaved people of around 75 enslaved Africans against her enslavers in Southampton County, Virginia. They killed about 55 white people in the area, making it the deadliest slave revolt in the history of the United States. The rebellion was suppressed after a few days. Turner was tracked down and executed 6 years later. And there's the famous Mona Lisa, and she's being returned from being stolen. And the 1955 Kelly Hopkinsville UFO incident takes place. The Sutton family from Kelly, Kentucky, rushes into a police station in nearby Hopkinsville and claims a UFO landed on their farm. Multiple family members swore they saw aliens disembark and peep into their window. Their story is now known as the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. Made national news as one of the most detailed alleged UFO sightings on record. When curious onlookers traveled to the farm to see for themselves, the Suttons tried to charge for admission, causing the public to believe they concocted the story for money. Didn't that happen in Las Vegas a few years ago? 1959, we talked about Hawaii. They are the 50th state. Welcome. We're glad that you're with us. 1986, carbon dioxide erupts from Lake Nyos in Cameroon. Large cloud of lethal gas erupts from the bottom of the lake, killing 1,746 people and more than 3,500 livestock nearby. Known as a limerick eruption, the resulting cloud descends on nearby villages, displacing the air and suffocating people up to 15 miles away. Experts believe the disaster may have been triggered by a landslide or a small volcanic eruption. And just a little bit of technical knowledge on that. The cloud, it is heavier than oxygen, so it will sink. Some gases go high because of their chemical properties. Others go to the ground, and that is one that will go to the ground, and until it is dispersed, it is deadly. In 1992, the Ruby Ridge siege begins. Ruby Ridge, Idaho, federal agents preparing to arrest white separatist Randy Weaver comes across his son and dog in the woods, resulting in a shootout that leaves Deputy U.S. Marshal William F. Degan, 14-year-old Sammy Weaver, and the dog striker dead. All right, let's see what else is going on today. Today in history, well, what day is today? It's International Day of Remembrance and Tribute to the Victims of Terrorism. And, well, that's that's it. That's all there is. What the hell? All right. Usually more than that. So I would say I pre-planned this, but obviously, if you were listening to my whole computer system with kaputs, it's National Hazy IPA Day. Well, that's a beer. India Pale Ale. It's pretty good. You got to get used to it. Brazilian Blowout Day. National Senior Citizens Day, National Spumoni Day. What the hell is Spumoni? All right, I'm gonna bite. Spumoni. Traditionally, 3 molded layers of flavored gelato create a unique dessert. Creamy creation often includes candy, fruit, and nuts in 2 layers with a 3rd chocolate layer. It was brought to the United States from Italy in 1905. And started by a bakery in Chicago. The traditional recipe calls for 3 layers of semifreddo, an almond layer, a semi-sweet chocolate, and a stracciatella layer. If it's a regular and irregular bits of chocolate in it. Okay, so it's basically ice cream. Cool. I haven't had ice cream in a long time. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Well, I am weird. All right, so let's see what somewhere up here what birthdays are today, and we'll get on with some news because Lord knows there's plenty of it. So let's see. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one. In 1856. Yeah, no. Count Basie, acclaimed jazz musician who played multiple instruments, was 1904. Wilt Chamberlain, he's one of the greatest NBA players of all times. Yes, he was. Kenny Rogers, the country music musician that many considered a legend. Yes. Steve Case, the co-founder of AOL, You've Got Mail. And Steve Hillenburg, a marine biologist and an animator who created SpongeBob SquarePants. Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, twin Harvard rowers and brothers who co-founded Connect U. And memorable events, the 1878, the American Bar Association was established in New York. In 1897, Olds Motor Vehicle Company manufactures the first Oldsmobile. 1931, Babe Ruth becomes the first MLB player to hit 600 career home runs. 1942, Disney released the animated version of Bambi, based off the book written by Felix Salten. 1959, President Eisenhower signs an executive order proclaiming Hawaii as the 50th and final State of the Union. Is that going to change in the next couple of years? 1968, James Anderson Jr. becomes the first Black Marine to receive the Medal of Honor for his bravery in Vietnam. PETA is formed in 1980, and in 2024, they messaged Bobby. That's an inside joke. You had to be following an old show I did called The Misfits. So, all right, let me close this here. I brought this up first to show us where on the map our dear friend Erin, that is hopefully departing us, is. And let's just refresh it so we get the latest update and see where she is. And of course, you're going to come up. All right. So let's see here. She is off of the coast, but we still have some winds that could be affecting the Outer Banks, this little band of islands right here. So that's, it's passing. It's a glancing blow, and it looks like the areas from the Chesapeake Bay upward are going to be spared, with the exception of maybe Rhode Island. Looks like they might get a glancing blow because of her size. One of the things about the storm was she got so wide that she couldn't keep the energy. She at one point in time grew to over 800 miles in diameter, and she just couldn't keep the energy. So that's good news. I mean, it's bad news because of the winds, but it's good news that she didn't remain a Cat 5 and do the glancing blow to the Outer Banks or to anywhere up and down the eastern seaboard. So Chris says experts have had since 1986 to study that explosion, and they can't still only provide just a theory. Which explosion are you talking about? I'm sorry, Chris. I've already forgot my mind. And it looks like there's really not much. There's some rain bands coming into the Outer Banks, but it doesn't look like the heavy rains they were expecting. And hopefully with the tide coming in and the increased waves, that wasn't too much. It looks like there's a pretty good storm there. And where is that? Augusta. And that's a pretty good sized storm down at McDuffie, Columbia County, South Carolina, Augusta. Yeah. That looks to be the only, we'll zoom out and make sure. It looks to be the only significant storm. Well, I don't know. Up here in Minnesota, right at the Canadian border, there's a pretty decent storm. Oh, the explosion of the lake in Africa. Yeah, you're right, Chris. Exactly. What caused it, and will it happen again? And it looks like Texas has some spotty showers from Austin to Houston over to Beaumont, and then back over on the other side of the state towards the Mexican border. So I do want to say they brought in a bunch of ships in the Navy to port that they moved from the Carolinas. They brought them up into Chesapeake, up into there. Well, then they've been dispatched by our president to down in South America, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And they've had to navigate hugging the coastline to get around to get to Venezuela. And so they've been actively trying to avoid the storm, hugging the coastline as closely as possible and maintaining maximum headwinds. And we talked about the ship in Japan yesterday. It was over a 12-hour firefight, and 2 people were injured, but there was no serious injuries. And good Lord, I'm sinking down in my seat. Fat's pulling me down. The ship is disabled, will need some repairs, but everyone is safe in Japan. I don't know if I got a story about that or not. So in weather, we talk about Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. They brace for the hurricane. Looks like it's going to be a glancing blow. Likely landfall. The storm is causing dangerous conditions along the coastal areas. Greatest impacts for the hurricane will be along the beaches with dangerous rip currents. We've seen that already. Beach erosion and flooding, according to 7 News first meteorologist Brian Van de Graaf. So if you have any beach plans for the next couple of days, well, you might just want to avoid it because all you're going to be able to do is watch. You're not going to be able to go in. So that's good because Mrs. Sportcat and I were talking about doing it, but I'm still here. So, all right. So this is always an ominous sign. President Trump has ordered stockpiling of critical medications. This is always an ominous sign. And I say this because whenever the government does this, first off, there's a shortage for civilians. A race to get stuff happens on other things. And, well, why are we doing it? President Trump is committed to securing our prescription drug supply chain, threatening tariffs of up to 250% to force manufacturing back in the U.S. At the same time, President Trump is ordering his Health and Human Services to begin stockpile of critical drugs to prevent against potential shortages and drug price increases. President Trump on Wednesday ordered the health officials to secure a 6-month supply of advanced pharmaceutical ingredients for drugs the administration determines are critical for the national health and security. The government has already directed millions of dollars towards developing domestic sources for key ingredients used in treatments for asthma, diabetes, and anxiety. Interesting they added anxiety in there. The ASPR would obtain a 6-month supply of the advanced pharmaceutical ingredients, or the APIs, to be placed in a strategic reserve with a preference for domestically manufactured products. The administration plans to update a 2022 list of 86 essential medicines and purpose to plan and obtain and store 6 months of these drugs. The list contains blood thinners, anti-seizure, cardiovascular drugs, and antivirals. The Trump White House has made it clear why it is stockpiling prescriptions. Drug medication was necessary. The White House fact sheet states that only about 10% of the advanced pharmaceutical ingredients for the U.S. prescription drugs are manufactured domestically, leaving the country vulnerable to foreign supply chain disruptions. They want to avoid shortages and stock up. President Trump isn't the only person who should be stockpiling prescription drugs. Every American should be doing the same. Now, this is coming from a White House press release. They're telling you to get your drugs now. Interesting. And they're claiming it's because of price. Stockpiling is nothing new. Dr. Jim Thorpe, one of the nation's leading critics of the corrupting influence of Big Pharma, has been advocating for stockpiling several years. I've recommended stockpiling critical medications, antibiotics since the turn of the century. This has been an incredible investment as many friends and families have benefited now in the summer of 2025. This recommendation is even more crucial. All right, so thousands of Americans are taking action now, stocking up on critical medical supplies. I want to interrupt the article here and remind you, you should also be stocking up on other common things. And I don't mean like toothpaste, deodorant, mouthwash, that type of thing. Always good to stockpile and have a reserve on. But I'm talking about first aid things, everything from Band-Aids to gels to salves. It's a good idea to have an emergency kit And apparently, since the government's telling everybody we need to stockpile, they know something we don't know. So, and I'm not saying you can go and find medications that are cleared for veterinarian use, but if you do some homework, you might find that out. So Chris says, I live by Lake Michigan. I would feel safer knowing experts know why water just exploded and killed over 1,700 people. Exactly. And Denise, you are correct. Your meds are only given when the renewal is due. And that is something that is so annoying to me, because when the C virus happened, the pharmaceutical company said, okay, we want you to have 3 months supply to stay at home. Well, the minute they decided that that wasn't an issue, you could no longer do that. And so I could only get a 30-day supply of some of my medication, because they're like, well, we've got to have enough for everybody else. What? What? All right. So we're not going to talk about the ivermectins or that stuff, because we'll get me kicked off of here. But you should have all kinds of medicines, including over-the-counter, Tylenol, NyQuil. It's always a good idea to have a pretty good stockpile of them. And let's not forget our furry friends. We want to make sure we have medicines for our furry friends if they need them. Or you can also look and find, I found natural alternatives to some of the very expensive allergy medicines for Hellhound, and she seems to do well. So yes, you are correct. That's why I wasn't naming them, because I would already be pushed further down the algorithm. Chris says a few of those listed were trashed by the media during the C one. Yep, you are correct. It's fake news, doesn't work. Oh, now that's the first drug they gave you for that. Shocker. But ironically enough, I was working in a doctor's office at the time, and we actually had that because it's a drug that goes along with chemotherapy agents, and they took it from the office. We had to physically send it in. There's a stockpile location in Hartsfield, Jackson. I don't know if I should say the location, but that's where it is. And they were stockpiling that. They were stockpiling vitamin C. There's a bunch of them. And so, yeah. And you're correct. It is another scare tactic. But, and well, if they're talking about, here's one that has annoyed me. I've been a paramedic for, God, I don't know, forever, 30 some years, long time. One of the things that we have had problems getting, this is going to sound silly, saline, salt water. It's manufactured by two companies. They're both located on Puerto Rico. Every time they get their warehouse and their production facility fixed, it mysteriously burns down or a hurricane takes it out. My question is, in 30 some years, we know it's a problem. In fact, I just got an alert that they're recalling it because there's bacteria in it and they want it shipped back to the government. That's kind of weird timing, but at any rate, they want it all shipped back to the government. So now there's another shortage on life-saving lactated ringers and normal saline and sterile water. Why do we have the only companies that manufacture those three items that are so critical in Puerto Rico, knowing that for the past 30 years, and that's just when I've been involved in fire, EMS, and medicine, they keep having problems? Seems to me like Florida's right there. Can't we just move it? California, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere. Washington? You got plenty of salt water there on your shore. I'm just saying. All right. I'm going to stop. But yeah, I just saw that go out today, that there was a recall of lactated ringers, normal saline, because of a, quote, bacteria, and they wanted it shipped back to the government. Same time this came out. Interesting timing. And Chris says, exactly. Why not here? Yeah, it should be. All right, so this comes to us from the Daily Mail. Well, apparently, health officials have warned of a potential measles outbreak at Washington Dulles International in Virginia. A passenger arriving on an international flight tested positive for the highly contagious respiratory illness, which is currently spreading through the U.S. Travelers who were at the airport, which serves Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland, on August 12th, have been warned they could be at high risk for the virus. The infected traveler, who is a resident of another state, passed through the main terminal, the TSA checkpoint, before taking transportation to Concourse B between 1 and 5 p.m. Travelers fear they may have been exposed or advised to confirm if they have been vaccinated. To date, in 2025, Virginia has 3 reported cases of the measles, with another one of these 3 linked to a traveler at Washington Dulles International. The U.S. so far has recorded more than 1,375 cases of measles, more than 60% of which are children and teens. About 95% of the cases have been in unvaccinated people, are those who have not completed the recommended 2-dose regime. Hell, so I don't know if I've got the 2-dose regime. 3 deaths have occurred due to the measles this year, all of them being in unvaccinated people, including 2 children. And so the article goes on to say that if you start to feel sick and you haven't been vaccinated, you need to go to your doctor. Probably be a good idea before winter sets in and everybody gets vaccinated. I'm probably pushed down the algorithms for saying that. Chris says, I remember watching Emergency when I was a kid, and Ringers was always the go-to for paramedics, Johnny and Roy. Yes. Do you remember when he would say, I'm giving 2 amp sodium bicarb, and you'd see him flip the caps off of the things? That was one of the reasons that every time I got to do that on a scene, I loved that. So I'd flip them all over the place. So we're looking at a picture here of the United States, and places that have 0 to places that have 800 plus. It looks like Texas and New Mexico, that whole 4 quarters region. And of course, the left coast have the highest incidence, and much of the East Coast has a few, but West Virginia, Alabama, and Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi looks as though they have a very small doses, or very few cases. So, and the symptoms are fever, cough, blocked or runny nose, red, sorry eyes, start to get spots in the mouth, and then a rash. So if you start to feel ill and you've been through there, well, you might want to go see a doctor. And this comes to us from Axios. A case of the plague is under investigation as the threat level increases. California public health officials are investigating a warning against, quote, the plague after a resident tested positive this month. Why it matters? Well, the plague is nothing to scoff at. Though medical advancements have made the disease fairly treatable compared to its peak in the Middle Ages, it has not been eradicated completely, with rare cases popping up. The latest California case appears to have happened while camping, an activity fairly common this time of year. That's why public officials are warning people of what to do and where to stay safe. A California resident in South Lake Tahoe tested positive for the plague this month, according to an El Dorado County press release. This person remains under medical care as they recover at home. The person has been bitten by an infected flea. Weren't we just talking? We've been talking about a lot of, yes, IV with D5W, and you can't TKO to keep open, and you can't give D5W to diabetics. Well, I mean, you can, but you have to very carefully. And it doesn't mix well with a lot of drugs because of the size of the sugar cell, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Because they are competing in size, so it doesn't mix well with a lot of drugs that you have to give IV. Let's see, because I remember one of my very first, I had a patient that was a diabetic that was exhibiting stroke-like symptoms, but his blood sugar was super low. And so I was trying to ride a thin line of giving just enough sugar to bring his sugar up to keep him out of a coma. But if the sugar was if he was to be having a hemorrhage, if he's having a brain bleed from the stroke, from a CVA, that could be killing brain cells. So yeah, I got chewed by a doctor for it, but I mean, I can't treat both at the same time, Doc. So I was trying to ride the line. But we were talking about infected fleas. You know, we talked, there's the bobcat fever. There's the squirrels with and I had a dream about them last night with the tumors and rupturing spots on their head. And then we have rabbits with horns. And then I read that there's a fly that is transmitting a sleep disease. Basically, the sleep disease is a combination of narcolepsy and delusion. And this comes out of Africa. So we have fleas, ticks, and flies. If you get bit by one of those, you could be getting something very bad. So what to know about the plague? Well, the threat levels, there are roughly 7 cases of the human plague reported every year, according to the CDC, and it is caused by common bacteria that is spread through infected fleas, which get it from infected animals. Most cases in the U.S. occur in rural areas, especially northern New Mexico and Arizona. Worldwide cases have been spotted in Africa, Asia, and South America. Flashback, a human case was reported in El Dorado County in 2020. 2 other people have been reported to have the plague since 2015 after exposure at Yosemite Park. So it comes in 3 forms. The bubonic, which is the most common, causes flu-like symptoms. The septicemic plague, where the bacteria can enter the bloodstream and multiply. And the pneumonic plague, which severely impacts the lungs and can lead to serious coughing. And this is the only plague that can be spread from human to human. So exposure symptoms usually occur within a few days, and they include fever, nausea, weakness, and swollen lymph nodes. The plague can be treated if detected earlier. So there you go. So, and this is so interesting because this doesn't exist in the South. This is Lyme disease, and it's reported cases from 0 through greater than 100. We see all up here. It's so funny. They will tell you in Georgia, Lyme disease doesn't exist. It does. And I've heard that about Tennessee. I don't know for a fact. I haven't talked to rangers, but they will tell you that Lyme disease doesn't exist in Georgia. Yeah. So, and the Legionnaire's disease in New York City, 67 cases. Wow. It's a cluster. It's broke out in Centrum Harlem. They're still working to get that under control. An area which spans 5 zip codes experiencing flu-like symptoms or having difficulty breathing should immediately contact a healthcare provider. Yep. All right. We talked about this the other day, and I'm just going to highlight this because I don't want to go too far down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole. But we had shrimp that were irradiated yesterday. We talked about from Walmart that were irradiated with a rare isotope that they came in contact with on a container ship. And it's funny how we can say that, but we don't say anything about the fact that this was detected at 4 ports and it was in other containers. And yeah, exactly, Chris. Chris says, I didn't know diseases were so strict with crossing state borders. Same with cats. There's no wild bobcats or panthers in Georgia or Tennessee. But I'm here to tell you, I was out one night vaping at 4 a.m. and I saw the cat the size of a deer come out of the woods by the cemetery and walk back into the cow pasture. I can tell you for a fact I saw that. But anyway, so we were talking about yesterday the irradiated shrimp. And it says that they came in contact with this from a container that came from India, and they've now outlawed the company that allowed this to come in. But they didn't mention how this one isotope, which shouldn't be in the public, so to speak, came in contact with them. The media just completely let that go, but they did say that the shrimp were at 4 ports in the United States. And so what happened to the where did the radiation come from? Nobody's researched that. So I had to really dig in a little bit. And this comes from one I've never seen, the CSR Journal. This is an overseas agency. Indian agencies are on high alert over suspected radioactive cargo in Bangladesh Chittagong port. And so Indian intelligence agencies are on high alert. Remember that the isotope that the shrimp came in contact with from a container This is very rare radioactive isotope. So just keep that in mind as I'm reading this. And it was from an Indian vessel, and it was detected at 4 ports. But that's all they're telling us. Don't eat shrimp. Well, actually, today there was a headline out from a medical journal that said you could eat small portions of it and be okay. Return the shrimp. Do not eat the shrimp. Indian intelligence agencies are on high alert after Bangladesh Chittagong port detected suspected radioactive material in 6 containers aboard the cargo vessel MV Mount Cameroon, which arrived on August from Colombo. According to Bangladeshi intelligence sources, the Hong Kong flagged ship was carrying iron scrap loaded in Brazil. The 6 containers reportedly cleared customs on 3 August, but an alarm from the port's radiation detection system at a jetty number 9 on the General Berth Terminal was triggered on August 10th, indicating the presence of radioactive substances. Bangladesh Shipping Ministry advisor Brigadier Hussain of the Port Authority head, and he's got a lot of titles there. Good Lord, he's got like a paragraph full of titles. So they were present at the port when the alarm went off. They immediately isolated the 6 containers and directed the Cameroon to an outer harbor. So they're moving this ship that's only got 6 of them to an outer harbor. Interesting. They moved it to an outer harbor and they began to investigate. The Atomic Energy Commission, that's interesting, was informed for further inspection. The 135 tons of scrap in containers were imported by a company, and I'm not even going to attempt the name of it, but it's Steel Mills. And they said that they later confirmed that the radio detection system had identified radioactive material. First and second stage examinations detected 3 isotopes: thorium-232, radium-226, and iridium-192. All initial readings showed of radioactivity at least one. Well, it's really small. Considered low, they said that the steel walls of the container and the scrap metal could be masking actual levels. Further testing is advised. So this is happening over. Hey, Brenda, you missed. I'm in a rabbit hole right now. So this is from the same country. They now have a vessel they have flagged, moved out away from everybody, and they're still checking. And they expressed concern that no radiations were triggered at other facilities. But we know nothing about the vessel that was carrying the shrimp that had a container that they were irradiated by. You see, I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together here and not sound too conspiratorial, but we know it was an Indian agency. They said that much. And now they're saying that they have from China got a vessel they've moved and put out, and now the company in India can no longer import seafood to the United States. But yet you can't find anything on the United States in the ports. There's nothing reported. Why do we not investigate the source of it instead of just telling you, yeah, it was in a ship, don't worry about it, don't eat the food? To me, it does not make sense. But all right, there you go. And this weekend, we're going to have a rare black moon with the sun on August 23rd. Well, what to expect? Besides for you should be out getting your good intent and your energy out there. On August 23rd, the night sky will play host to an unusual lunar event known as a black moon. Now, let me ask you a question. Brenda, even if it's from here, off the coast of California, it could be irradiated from Fukushima. So, I'm just saying. Has anybody else heard of a black moon? Or is it just me that this is brand new? They say this is a common thing that happens every 33 months, and you don't see it, but it's a black moon. So in other words, the moon is going to go almost completely invisible except for a tiny sliver of a crescent that will be very bright over the weekend. 2:06 Eastern Daylight Time, 11:06 p.m., and this is on Friday night. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that. And it's going to be a black moon. And normally each season has 3 moons, but the lunar cycle doesn't line up perfectly with our calendar. Every so often we have an extra new moon. comes in and is dubbed as the Black Moon. The last seasonal Black Moon happened in May of 2023. Summer 2025 in the Northern Hemisphere started with a new moon on June 25th, followed by June 23rd, August 3rd, September 21st. 4 new moons squeeze into the season. The August 23rd new moon becomes the Black Moon. Has anybody else ever heard of this? And I don't think 33 months. Brenda, do math real quick, but from May of 2023 to now, I don't think that's 33 months. So something's not lining up here. Unlike a supermoon or lunar eclipse, a black moon isn't something you can watch unfolding in real time. During this phase, the moon is positioned between Earth and the sun, so its unlit side faces us, rendering it invisible against a bright sky. So, yeah. And Brenda says, no, I haven't heard. Okay, hold on. Let me go back here. Chris says we should just listen to what Dr. F thinks about the shrimp problems. That seems to work very well. DEI math is what Brenda says, but that's the number they're being fed by space agencies. And that real quick before the show, I was trying to add it up and it just didn't seem to make sense. Don't know. Another odd story. I'm just full of odd stories today. So this one comes to us. This is from BBC News. It's funny how we get the real news from outside of the state agencies. Interesting. The Bureau of Land Management and firefighters in Oregon are racing to save the Dooner fir, one of the world's tallest and oldest trees, from a fire that has been burning since Saturday. The giant fir is more than 325 feet tall and estimated to be 450 years old, and they've already lost about 50 foot of it to the blaze and may jeopardize its standing in global heights, ranking officials said. With more hot, dry weather forecast along the Oregon Coast Range, firefighters are struggling to put the fire out. Officials have discussed some unconventional ways to put the blaze out, including building a scaffolding to reach and suppress flames higher up the tree. And the cause of it remains unknown, but lightning has been ruled out. Think about that for a minute. We got a tree that was 325 feet tall. Lightning has ruled it out, but it's burning. On Tuesday, an infrared drone found no active flames or smoke at the top of the tree, but it has detected heat inside a cavity in the trunk, some 280 feet high. Bureau of Land Management spokesperson Megan Harper told the BBC. Ms. Harper told ABC that the fire may impact the tree's standing in the global highest rankings. We've lost about 50 feet so far just from the fire and pieces falling out, she said, noting that 50 feet were lost through the top burning. So I don't know where it'll stand after this, but it is still a magnificent tree. She also said there is a lot of risk of the tree burning fully down. The tree is so big, it's got so much mass, it would take a while to burn all the way through the tree. The Coos Forest Protection Association has said helicopter buckets drop water on it to reduce the fire. Sprinklers and containment lines have been set up around the base, and a helicopter is remaining on standby. So how does it catch on fire at the very top of an almost 400-foot tall tree, and it wasn't by lightning? How does that happen? How does it happen? My next question is, and I'm probably going to get attacked by the tree people, that can't we just cut it down? If it's that big of a hazard, from a firefighter's perspective, if it's burning inside of it, it could be burning to the base. And if it burns through the roots, depending on how big the roots are, if it's that old of a 450-year-old tree, roots could be spread out and it could cause wildfires in a very large area. I don't know. At any rate, they're thinking about putting scaffolding up. They're putting helicopters on it to save the tree. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that concerned about a tree. Good Lord. All right. So we'll go back to some military stories, and then we got to get into what we normally do here. Goodness, we're running late. So the U.S. Navy has destroyers, submarines, and amphibious ships. Remember that key word there, being sent towards Venezuela. They're stocking up on medicines too. U.S. President Trump is deploying a flotilla of warships and other military assets to the waters off Venezuela in an operation aimed at the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. The ominous move signals a growing frustration with Venezuelan leaders over the flow of illicit narcotics into the United States. Maduro remains a fugitive from a 2020 U.S. indictment on narco-terrorism and drug-related charges. Trump last week ordered 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, a submarine, and other assets to head toward the South American nation. A source familiar with the operations confirmed to the War Zone on Wednesday. Earlier this week, Reuters reported that in addition to the destroyers, some 4,000 Marines aboard of amphibious ready group made up of 3 ships were also deploying to the region. If this ends up being the case, it would put a remarkably large, versatile, and powerful armada of the U.S. ships off the Venezuela coast. While the exact nature of this movement remains unclear, it is part of Trump's larger effort to get the military involved in the fight against drug traffickers. In response, Maduro on Monday announced that he planned the deployment of more than 4.5 million militia members around the country. They are volunteers designated to bolster the armed forces' defense against external and domestic attacks. The empire has gone mad and has renewed its threats to Venezuela peace and tranquility, Maduro said at an event in Caracas, without mentioning any specific action. Trump, whose problems with Maduro date back to the American president's first term, has accused the Venezuelan leader of being a part of the key international drug trade that he targeted as a top priority to fight. The White House considers him a narco-terrorist. President Trump has been very clear and consistent. White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt told reporters on Tuesday when asked about the troop deployment and whether the U.S. will put boots on the ground. He's prepared to use every element of the American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. So we're going to topple over a government is what we're headed to do. It is a, quote, narco-terror cartel led by Maduro. It is the view of this administration that he is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head. This cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country. Exactly what the U.S. plans to do with assets in regards to Maduro remains murky. Last week, U.S. officials told CNN that it had ordered naval movements to the region to contain the threat from drug trafficking groups. On Monday, Reuters reported that the USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and the USS Sampson and 4,000 military personnel would arrive at the edge of the Venezuela's territorial water within the next 36 hours. The U.S. official who was speaking on condition of anonymity said that the additional commitment of military assets in the broader region would include P-8 spy planes. We saw those the other day, warships, and at least 1 attack submarine. The official said in the process would be ongoing for several months. The plan was for them to operate in international airspace and international waters. The P-8 is a maritime patrol aircraft, not a primary spy plane, but is capable of a myriad of surveillance tasks. It's usually the P-38 is the sub hunter. In addition, the officials told Reuters that the naval assets can be used to not just carry out intelligence and surveillance operations, but as a launching pad if targeted strike decision is made. On Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Defense told officials at CNN there is no warship in the area, nor have the ships received orders to head there. We have reached out to the White House for clarification. We'll update this story when details are provided. So, and then friends at Task and Purpose said that 2 Iwo Jima amphibious ready group in 22nd, so they have a whole expeditionary. The MEU has set sail out of Norfolk August 14th, has 4,500 sailors and Marines on these ships. So that's going to be breaking news. You heard it here. So they're not just taking and putting 5,000 Marines on an amphibious ship for health, because if you know anything about the amphibious ships, they're not like a aircraft carrier where at least you have a little bit of luxury. You're packed in there like sardines. So Chris said, I would investigate the second biggest tree. It may be a crime of passion to be number one. Yeah, good point. And Brenda says it's raining and they have cooled off. It's only 92 there. Yeah, we'll get to the weather there in a minute. So what we know about Venezuela, besides for the fact that we have a large portion of the Marines and Navy headed that way, well, we know that the government, Nicolas Maduro, he's wanted. He's a international criminal terrorist, and there's a $50 million bounty on his head by the United States government. And we know that Cuba, Iran, Russia, China, and there's no Cuba, Russia, Iran, Tehran. No, that's it. All have started been giving them military things too close to the U.S., just too close. So I don't know. Just saying. All right. This comes to us from the Navy Times. A pilot rescued after ejecting from a Super Hornet off the Virginia coast. Search and rescue teams safely recovered the Navy pilot Wednesday off the coast of Virginia after the pilot ejected from a FA-18 Super Hornet 9:53 a.m. Eastern Time. The Strike Fighter Squadron 83 pilot, who was on a routine training flight, was rescued at 11:21 and taken to a nearby hospital for further evaluation. The F-18 remains in water where it crashed. The cause of the mishap is under investigation. Strike Fighter Squadron 83 operates out of the Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach, and they did not specify a cause of the crash. All right. Brendan says, okay, Chris, let's get him a 50-50 split. Start rolling that way, Brenda. All right, this comes to us from NBC News. U.S. immigrant population is shrinking for the first time since 1960s. The U.S. lost about 1 million immigrants from January to June, even though the unauthorized population hit a record-setting 14 million 2 years ago. The number in the United States appears to be shrinking for the first time since the 60s, though the population of unauthorized has reached a record-setting high of 14 million, according to the Pew Research Center in reports they released Thursday. In January, the immigration population hit 53.3 million, the largest in the country's history. 6 months later, it appears to have shrunk by 1 million people to 51.9. The data we are looking at represented a dramatic change, according to the Pew researchers. The reduction is reflected in the labor force, which lost 750,000 workers since January, according to the research agency. The U.S. population of working-age people isn't growing. That means the only way the workforce can grow is from new immigrants coming in. The workforce isn't growing. It's harder on the economy. And so Trump administration amplified this crackdown and has led to increased arrest, detentions of immigrants and citizens at homes and work sites in the streets. It's also led to curtailing of legal immigration, which stepped up scrutiny for visa applicants, cutoffs for refugee entries, travel bans, and new procedural barriers, not burials, for legal migration. This is the first time we've seen a drop like this, and it's difficult to see whether the drop will be consistent through the rest of the year. So there you go. You can go read the whole article if you want, because it's got some fascinating statistics from NBC News of how it's dropping. I'll cover this real quick. If you follow my buddy over at Penguin 6 on YouTube, you saw he was at Union Station when this took place. J.D. Vance shuts down reporter who demands evidence of DC's crime problem. Okay, I'm just going to say this out loud. She's demanding evidence. Isn't a reporter's job supposed to be to investigate? So why should she demand evidence? Shouldn't her job be to, shouldn't the person's job be to research it and present the facts to them? I mean, I'm looking at it from an outsider here. Reporters and protesters flanked J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller in Union Station Thursday, peppering them with questions meant to criticize President Donald Trump's effort to crack down crime on D.C., and Vance quickly made it clear that he was not playing. The three were touring Union Station to observe the progress that has been made since the Trump administration began its efforts. Vance, according to the Pool Reporter, stopped to thank National Guardsmen who were present, saying, "You guys bust your ass all day and we give you hamburgers. Not a fair trade, but we're grateful for everything you do." Speaking to gathered reporters, Vance touted the success of the efforts. Thus far, in the last 9 days, we've seen a 35% reduction in crime. One of the three men, so it was a man, one of the three men opened up the floor for questions. A reporter asked when they'd be providing, quote, evidence. So it was a she. "Are you going to be releasing evidence of this?" she asked. Isn't that their job to get the evidence? I may be off on this one. Hegseth and Vance both appeared to be amused by the question. His response was, quote, "Of what?" Vance asked. "The DC has a terrible crime problem. You just got to look around. Obviously, DC has a horrible crime problem. The Department of Justice statistics back it up. The FBI statistics back it up. Just talk to a resident of the city, this beautiful, great American city. Don't they deserve? We talk about human rights. We hear these people outside screaming, 'Free DC,' less free DC from lawlessness, less free Washington, D.C. from one of the highest murder rates in the entire world, less free D.C. so that young families can walk around, feel safe and secure. That's what we're trying to free D.C. from," referencing the protesters outside. He added, as Stephen said, "It's kind of bizarre that we have a bunch of," this is his quote, "old, primarily white people who are out there protesting the policies that keep people safe when they've never felt danger in their entire lives." Didn't we just talk about how yesterday statistics show from the companies that hire protesters that it was predominantly old white people? Just saying. Also, the reporter, besides for doing evidence, not too long ago, if you know anything about DC crime, there was a female reporter pistol whipped and beat down not too far from her office outside of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So maybe she should be investigating. Maybe she should just ask somebody in the pool that knows that reporter to get her to tell the story. It was a rarity, of course. So this made national news because of the, quote, tackle. And even Fox went off on the agents. Let's just review the story. This comes to us from the Daily Wire. Federal agents took down and arrested a man in Washington, D.C. in the United States illegally who was arrested last year for allegedly assaulting a child. A journalist from NBC Washington witnessed the arrest take place on the National Mall and posted the video online. The man, an illegal alien from Mexico, can be seen getting out of his car and appearing to attempt from federal agents on foot before he is thrown to the ground or detained. He is screaming, "I don't owe anything. I don't owe anything." He is yelling in Spanish, "I'm not a criminal. I work here. I want to be with my family." I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but you can at least see this. This is supposed to be brutal, by the way. And so they're instructing him to stand over there. They're going to tell him to turn around, face the vehicle so they can search him. Now, I don't know if you could hear this or not, but he's screaming and crying like a little bitch, even though he's a child pedophile, and yet the media and the public are taking his side because he was so viciously tackled and thrown to the ground. This child is an animal this person is an animal that needs to be taken off the street for assaulting our children. The unlawfully present alien has been identified as David Pereza Tifani. He's 36. He has a court order to be deported from the United States. He's entered the country illegally at least 3 times, according to ICE. He was previously arrested January of last year in Virginia on charges of aggravated sexual assault of a child under 13, indecent liberties with a child under 15, but, quote, prosecutors later dropped the charges. Yes, this illegal alien from Mexico was previously arrested in January 2024, and I'm so ashamed to say this, Fairfax County, Virginia, where I was born, for aggravated sexual assault of a child under 13. Glad he is off of D.C. streets thanks to President Trump, Secretary Noem and ICE, the Department of Homeland Security said in the statement. He was later loaded into an SUV with federal officials, screaming, "My family has papers, my family, my children, please, please, please." D.C. police were put under federal control. Okay, we know about all that. And so we know about the crackdown. But they're making such a big deal of that tackle and how it was inhumane treatment and that he should be released. He's a pedophile that was released by Fairfax County, where I grew up. That is disgusting. So, sorry, it angers me when where I grew up used to be such a safe and happy place to live is now pestered by such scum that they allow to walk on the streets. In fact, the neighborhood I grew up in, you can't walk the streets in safely anymore. As a child, I was out from dusk till dawn most nights on weekends, just roaming around being a kid. And you can't do that now. The neighborhood I grew up in is disgusting. So, all right, I'm going to stop. ICE to flood Boston after leftist mayor rejects Bondi sanctuary policy demands. Well, so apparently this comes to us from Daily Wire. Leftist Boston Democrat Mayor Michelle Wu attacked Attorney General Pam Bondi's order to dismantle the city's sanctuary policy. Acting ICE Director Tom Lyons fired back on Wednesday, saying the agency would, quote, flood the zone. Earlier this month, Bondi sent a letter to Wu that stated for too long, so-called sanctuary jurisdiction policies have undermined the necessary cooperation and obstructed federal immigration enforcement, giving aliens cover to perpetrate crimes in our communities and evade the immigration consequences that federal law requires. You are hereby notified that your jurisdiction has been identified as one that engages in sanctuary policies and practices that thwart federal immigration enforcement to the detriment of the interests of the United States. This ends now. And she went on the news to talk about her directive. If they don't comply with us, we're going to work with other agencies to cut off their federal funding. We're going to send in law enforcement, just like we did during LA, just like we're doing here in Washington. And if they're not going to keep their citizens safe, Donald Trump will. All right, so she held a press conference where she arrogantly responded. The U.S. Attorney General asked for a response today, so here it is. Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law, and Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for. We will not back away from our community that has made us the safest city in the country. So there you go. And it's going to be a tit for tat. So, okay, let's get to something funny. If anybody's even still with me, this comes to us from the U.S. Sun. Probably lost subscribers again today. Landing strip, bizarre moment. Passenger performs strip tease and moons stunned tourists at airport gate before getting tackled by the police. I'm not going to play the sound. A passenger gave stunned travelers a naughty strip tease all the way down to his boxers at, oh, wait a minute, Boston Airport. He was dragged away by police after stripping disrupted the boarding of a JetBlue flight. The man who did what appeared to be a striptease for other passengers, he even mooned them. He was then hauled away by the police. The unidentified flasher even mooned the, quote, gobsmacked crowd and got fully naked while muttering to himself. The video of the creepy spectacle went viral on Facebook after it was posted. It shows him stretching on the floor, seemingly channeling his inner yogi in bright red underpants. Well, they were left. Flyers at Boston's Logan International Air Terminal C were left half amused and half dismayed. He was filmed lying on the floor, raising his feet in the air while turning over his hands and knees with his butt in the air facing the waiting area. Mass State Police intervened and put it into his unsolicited show, and he was carried away with his legs still spread clear. It remains unclear when it started and how long it went on for. Indecent exposure by intentionally and offensively exposing your private part carries a penalty up to 6 months in jail and a fine of $200. But it's confirmed what punishment, if any, the wannabe stripper will face after being taken away. And so there you go. So we don't know who this person is. We probably won't know who this person is, but oh, KG, you've missed it. I've got on some rants that's probably cost me some subs. So yeah, it's been great. So all right, well, then before we go into our regular stuff with gosh, we are so over. I hope Australia keeps me going. Senator Klobuchar denies saying Sydney Sweeney has perfect titties. I'm not making this headline up. Senator Amy Klobuchar, she's a Democrat from Minnesota, is taken to the New York Times to slam, quote, deep fakes after a video emerged where she appears to declare Sydney Sweeney has perfect titties. Also, definitely go on X and search for perfect titties. Well, I will now. The AI deep fake features me using the phrase perfect titties and lamenting that Democrats were too fat to wear jeans or too ugly to go outside, she wrote. I could immediately tell when some used footage from the hearing made a deep fake. There was no getting around the fact that it looked and sounded very real, that only a complete retard, I think that's a bad word to use, would be fooled. If Republicans are going to have beautiful girls with perfect titties in their ads, we want ads for Democrats too, you know, she says in the deep fake. We want ugly fat bitches wearing pink wigs and long ass fake nails being loud and twerking on top of a cop bar at Waffle House because they didn't get any extra ketchup, you know. Oh my God. Just because we're the party of ugly people doesn't mean we can't be featured in ads. Okay, I know most of us are too fat to wear jeans or too ugly to go outside, but we want representation. Meanwhile, here are the results of some serious journalism to determine if, in fact, she does have perfect breasticles. I got nothing. I got nothing. Anything I say, I'll get in trouble for. But yeah, it appears that she has beautiful American globes. So there you go. If you want to see the AI video, just go search it at your own peril. So there you go. We're ending on a titty story before we get into what we normally do. So yeah. Good times. It's good times when we talk about titties. All right. So it's the top of the hour, 3:00. We are running really behind. I want to say hello to you in Australia, Radio X in Australia, Dare Media in Australia, and to the Yerg's Radio Network. And also, I forgot to earlier mention this, but I want to thank where I'll be going out. It will not be live. It'll be tape delayed, but I am now going to be a part of the Channel 12 TV network on demand streaming. You can start seeing my shows here in the very near future there. And if you go and you pay $9.99 a month, or I think it's $100 a year, I can't remember, and get a subscription, we're going to start doing some exclusive stuff for their channel. So you can see it over there. It may be stuff that's a little less censored than we have here. Take that for what you want. All right, so we're going to get into the daily operations briefing. This comes to us from FEMA, Thursday, 21 August at 8:30 a.m. as presented to the President, Commander-in-Chief. Well, they're not monitoring anything new. Excessive heat, California and Southwest and Florida. They're keeping an eye on fire weather in the Great Basin and Rockies and tropical activity. Hurricane Erin, she was a Cat 2 at that time. And we have disturbance 1, 2, and 3. And 1 in the Eastern Pacific. Oh, thank you, Chris. Yes, you'll have to go over there and subscribe, and you will start seeing some other content. I'm not saying the Misfits is coming back. Just not saying that. So Atlantic overview. Well, we see this little dot where Erin is. This one is about a 70% chance for forming. I think it's going to be a nothing burger. If anything, it's going to turn. Bermuda might catch some of it. This one is going to teeter out. This one back here, I guess this is number 3. It's only at 40%. That one's the one we need to watch. That little bugger there has some potential. At 8 a.m., we see Erin there. She was safely off the coast of the Delmarva, heading up towards the New England region. She had she was traveling northeast, which is what we want, 17 mile an hour winds with 105 mile an hour. I'm sorry, she's traveling 17 miles northeast with 105 mile an hour winds, which is Cat 2. And she is forecast to keep going to the northeast before she makes the big turn to the east and gets out of our hair. So just keep her eyes open. Peak storm surge has occurred in the Carolinas, the Delmarva, and the Chesapeake Bay region. And this one has a very slim chance of doing anything in the Pacific, and it should peter out as it fades away between Hawaii and San Francisco. In the national forecast, well, we talked about the extreme heat in the west. Going from Arizona to Minnesota, there's potential for some spotty showers. And then again from Texas all the way to Maine. And Hurricane Erin is causing some increased tides and flooding into the coastal regions, so keep an eye on that. Tomorrow, there's going to be some intense storms down in the Alabama, Georgia, Florida Panhandle region, extending over to the Atlantic. And then on Saturday, it's just going to be spotty showers for most of the U.S. minus the West. The excessive heat we're talking about, well, the left coast is going to have some extreme heat for the next couple days, and then high temperatures are going to be pushed down into the south and to the southwest. Now, what to keep an eye on this map over the next couple days, you're going to start seeing a cold front come down, and they're calling it fake fall. All right, so we see the fire weather warning is for the Four Corners states, Idaho, and extending up into Montana. And of course, we can't leave out the other side of the Sierra Nevadas in California. The hazardous outlook, well, they're worried about the heat and the burning tree up in Oregon, down in Washington, California, high heat, and then across the center of the country with that cold front pushing down, there's a chance for some significant rainfall. And then pushing back over to the south as it goes and makes its way towards the Gulf, it's going to be pushing into the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. And we see that they've made 6% containment since yesterday on the Utah fire. And I don't remember on the Lee, it is 73, and the Idaho at 6%, and Wyoming is at 31%. Space weather outlook, there is nothing predicted, but don't forget we got an alien aircraft coming towards us, so don't forget that one. Don't forget that one. 17 joint field offices, 63 major disasters, 7 emergency declarations. Look for that to increase because I believe North Carolina declared a state of emergency, and I'm not sure, but I think Virginia may have. 12 direct housing missions, repopulation, and they're still working with 9 supported disaster centers and 6 joint recovery offices. And so these are old things. Go lay down. This happened last night, and she took my energy and killed the show. So keep an eye out. Hellhound may be trying to take me out. All right, let's look at the president's schedule really quickly. President Trump had a 9 a.m. press time. At 11 a.m., he received his intelligence briefing. And at 3, he is signing some executive orders. We have to go lay down. She's talking back to me. So at any rate, yesterday, there wasn't much going on after the ceremony for swearing in the UN ambassador for the EU. So they called the lid at 6 o'clock. Let's go over here to channel 4 and see what's going on with live updates. She's killing me. All right. As it refreshes, what do we got here? A New York appeals court largely agreed with the findings of fraud against Trump and the companies in a lawsuit accusing him of exaggerating his wealth, but called the civil penalty of $500 million excessive. Seems reasonable. Parts of the nation's capital now look like occupied territory as Trump's D.C. law enforcement crackdown expands. The national tit-for-tat redistricting battle entered its next phase. Today's California Democrats launched their final legislative push to redraw their congressional map to add 5 winnable seats for their parties, a direct counter to the Texas House approval of a new map to create more conservative-leaning seats in their state. Trump administration has agreed to limit tariffs on pharmaceuticals, lumber, and semiconductors coming in from the EU to 15%. According to the agreement released today, the EU agreed to eliminate tariffs on industrial goods and many agricultural products from the U.S. And Russia has launched one of the biggest aerial assaults of the year on Ukraine, firing 574 drones and 40 ballistic and cruise missiles overnight, while a recent diplomatic push to stop the 3-year was trying to gain momentum. And we know that nearly 2,000 Guards troopsmen are in D.C. right now. And Gavin Newsom apparently strikes a nerve and seizes the spotlight as he treads on Trump's turf. I don't know what the hell that headline's about. After months of escalating attacks against President Trump, California Governor Gavin Newsom seems to have finally hit a nerve by hijacking his tactics. Oh, we talked about that yesterday. They're using a media firm that's got young Gen Zers in it. So Trump expected to leave White House to thank troops and D.C. officers on patrol. This comes 1 hour ago. That's breaking news. Trump is expected to leave the White House today sometime to thank troops in D.C., law enforcement for patrolling the city streets. Boy, I bet you that has his security just tighter than true. Trump called in a radio show hosted by Newsmax Todd Starnes. Why doesn't he call me? Brenda, can you get him on the horn for me? And he spoke about his plans. I'm going to be going out tonight with the police and the military, of course. We're going to do a job. So we're going to, wait a minute, Trump's going to put on khakis and tackle somebody? Hell yeah, I'm there for that. The National Guard is great. They're doing a fantastic job. And the White House has suspended tours for the ballroom construction. Kamala Harris announces international book tour for 107 days. Good for her. It's good she has a life after doing nothing. Trump reacts to toss of civil fraud judgment as a total victory. New York will appeal Trump's civil case, of course. Anytime they can take him to court. That's why we know he didn't do much with the E guy because, well, they didn't have anything on him. So, and let's see, we talked about that. We talked about harsh measures if election denier Tina Peters is released from prison. He said there's going to be harsh measures if Tina Peters, a former Colorado County clerk who promoted conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, is not released from prison. Okay. So he wants her out. Free Tina. Free the Peter. All right. Conservative firebrand Chip Roy jumps into race for the Texas Attorney General. President Z says, well, Russia's attack hit an American factory. That is correct. There was not much at press time about this, so they did strike an American plant. The Z-Meister urges quick progress on security guarantees and says that the Putin summit is going to be challenging. Where they're meeting is what he's talking about. We talked about California, and we talked about the tariffs coming down. So there you go. That's your DC news in a minute. And let's look at this real quick. We'll skim through this. I am way over. Thank you to everybody at Radio X and Dare Media for allowing us to be on your airwaves. And of course, Yergs at Yergs Radio. We look here in the most severe storms. Oh man, the Dakotas just cannot get a break. North Dakota up into Minnesota, severe thunderstorms and continuing heavy rainfall can be seen along the coastal regions of the state on the Atlantic seaboard. Tomorrow, that depression is going to cause some severe heavy flash flooding in southern Georgia, lower southern California, and northeast Florida. And then Saturday, it appears we're going to go back to spotty showers. Temperatures are going to be coming down, so everybody look forward to that. Let's get a quick look. There's zero, well, not zero, it's never zero, but there's a very small chance of tornadoes. But there could be some heavy winds up in the Dakotas, up into Michigan, with only 5%. And they're saying there's a slight chance of 1% chance of hail in those storms. And let's take a quick look and see if we can see exactly where Erin is. And I'm going to refresh it so that we got the best look. And we see that Erin, well, she is currently the center of it. Looks to be parallel with possibly Washington, D.C., but her outer bands are still lashing from Norfolk to Rhode Island. So keep an eye. We're not done with her yet, but she is moving slowly to the northeast. Look at radar real quick, and I'll get you some weather. We're going to start working on getting out of here. We mentioned earlier that storms down in Augusta, in Columbia, South Carolina, and some down along Pensacola, Mobile, that looked to be pretty intense. Some north of Orlando, Gainesville, Jacksonville area, back over. Man, they're always having some kind of storm down in Louisiana. We look here and we can see on radar that the rain bands do not appear to be striking the coastal regions of the Atlantic region of the U.S. So that's good news. And she is making that turn to the northeast. Hopefully you'll just have some winds that affect you as she goes out of the way and some flood. Let's see. Nothing else. There's a pretty good sized storm up in Minnesota at the border with Canada. And okay, that's all there. Take a look at the warnings real quick. And, well, ironically, Louisiana, special weather statements, probably those. Storms, flood advisory in Florida, test message in Montgomery County, Maryland. And we see all kinds of warnings for both the Great Lakes and the coastal waterways. Extreme heat watch in Oregon and Washington. Texas, you have some special weather statements that are due to the heavy storms. Florida, well, high surf and rip currents. In Maryland, you can expect some coastal flooding. Virginia, you're going to anticipate some coastal flooding. And that Florida, Georgia special watch statement, that's going to be for the storms that are coming in. That'll affect us more tomorrow. Heat advisory in California, and the gale warnings, of course, along the waterways in the Delaware Bay. And then we have where is this one? A tropical storm warning. Okay, that is for the extreme Little Egg Inlet, New Jersey, up there where they're talking about the storm's winds. So the New Jersey coastline, and talk about coastal flooding, high surf. And it looks like we've got most of the warnings. I'm trying to see the gale warnings. Of course, there's going to be a lot of water warnings, heat warnings. It appears to be most of them at the moment. But please keep your NOAA weather radio nearby. Have it on alert status. Let's see. Los Angeles, California. We will get this one out. This is a child abduction emergency. An Amber Alert is being issued by the California Highway Patrol on behalf of the Los Angeles Police Department. On 21 August 2025 at 01:30 a.m., Jaden Hernandez and Derek Rodriguez were abducted from Los Angeles, California. Jaden Hernandez is a 10-year-old Hispanic male, 4 feet tall, weighing 100 pounds, black hair, brown eyes, and is believed to be wearing a black shirt and black pants. Derek is a 2-year-old Hispanic male, 2 feet tall, weighing 20 pounds, with red hair, brown eyes, and is believed to be wearing a dark t-shirt and dark pants. The suspect, Jacqueline Hernandez Torres, is a 30-year-old Hispanic female standing 5 feet tall, weighing 120 pounds, black hair, brown eyes, and is believed to be wearing a light-colored hoodie with dark sweatpants. The suspect is believed to be driving a 2008 black PT Cruiser with Indiana license plate DFT 105. We'll do this two ways. David Frank Tom 105, or David Delta Foxtrot Tango 105. So it's David Frank Tom 105 or Delta Foxtrot Tango 105. So be on the lookout and let's help return those children safely. And is this the same one? Yeah, it's the same one. All right, so we got that out there. Hopefully, if those children are in danger, they will be found. Let's look at the electrical activity in storms real quick. And we see down in the Gulf of America, pretty much from the Texas Panhandle way back to the Florida Keys, that band is storms is peppering, coming in from the Gulf, all the San Antonio, almost to Dallas. Of course, we talked about Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Mobile, Pensacola, Panama City, Tallahassee, and then looks down here to Tampa, all the way down to the Everglades and the Keys. And the storms are picking up momentum and going through the Appalachia, striking Georgia in the northeast up towards the mountains and the inner cities of Atlanta, as well as over Columbia, South Carolina. And we see that storm up here in Minnesota at the border. That one's been sitting there for a little while. It's got not as much power, but we want to keep an eye on it. We'll look and see as Erin goes out. She still has some electrical activity on that west side. So she's still trying to churn up, but hopefully she'll be out of all of our hair soon. All right, let's see here. We're looking at power outages. California, you have 44,440. Let's take a quick gander and see where that is. It's mostly in Mono County and down in Ventura County. And in Texas, you have 21,707. And that looks to be up in Collingsworth County, Williamson, Leon, and Rusk counties. And for a total of California has 4,440, Texas 21,707, Florida 5,605, New York 3,217, Ohio 3,205. And we'll take a real quick look at the AI wind, and we'll look and zoom in a little bit on Erin. As we can see her, she's still quite a broad storm. And she is moving to the northeast. Slowly, she'll be out of her way. And it looks like short of the Atlantic coast, coming down out of Canada, there's a slight breeze and one slightly off the Pacific Rockies. But for most part, United States is wind-free today. Let's go down and visit with our friends down under because, well, we don't want to forget about them. And it looks as though they're having a relatively wind-free day as well. Looks like they have off to the south on both the east and west coast. They have winds circulating around, pulling the air out of the country. All right, let's move on before we run out of time. And the National Hurricane Center. Hopefully this is the last day we have to talk about Erin, but we don't know if that's going to happen or not. No, it's not Erin. Oh, no, we're already off of Erin in the Atlantic. So they've already taken her totally out of here. So there's no more updates on Erin, I don't believe. Wednesday arrival times. All right, we looked at that. Most likely. And there we go. So it looks like, dang it, I wish I could make this bigger. It looks like, can I do this? Can I do that? Does that work? Let's see. Not really. All right. It looks like we can see that pretty much along the North Carolina coast and Rhode Island are the only places. And they're talking about by 8 p.m. tonight, if you're up in the northeast region, starting to see some winds, but it doesn't appear that it's going to be as strong as we initially thought, which is good news. So, all right, let's look at some temperatures real quick, and we'll do some quick weather forecasts before we get out of here. In Washington, D.C., well, it's currently, wow, is it really only 67 with a high of 73? It's cool there. New York, you're 70. Cloudy skies with you with a high of 71. And we jump up into Boston, and they're going to have cloudy skies with a high of 68. Gosh, must be nice. Down here in East Tennessee, we're looking at right now, we're about in the 80s with a high in the 80s. And it's going to be cloudy skies. Atlanta, 87 rainy thunderstorm conditions. Tampa, 88. You're going to have some rain showers. Down in Key West, where I wish I was right now, 86, partly cloudy. New Orleans, well, it's stormy over there and a high of 91 today. Looks like the hottest spot is Phoenix currently. Wow. Phoenix, it's going to reach a high of 111 with bright sunny skies. Vegas, if you want to go gambling, you're only going to get to 109 with partly cloudy skies. Seattle, well, Seattle, you can anticipate sunny skies, a high of 73. And our friends down in Los Angeles, well, it's warm there. It's 92, going to get to a high of 95 with cloudy skies. Let's hop over to our friends down under and see if I can screw up names. Canberra, here we go. I got that one up. Canberra. I'm working on it, guys. Please don't at me too badly. Today, you can expect some cloudy skies in 61. Can I change this real quick So, because I feel like I'm cheating you guys by not telling you in Celsius. I got to be able to change it somewhere. Precipitation, wind, distance, atmosphere, conditions, English, where distance, area, pressure, temperature. There we go. Boom. Let's change that real quick for our friends down under. All right, let's do this again. Canberra, you're looking at temperatures of 16 Celsius as your high and a low of 8 with cloudy skies. Melbourne, well, cloudy skies with a high of 17 Celsius. Adelaide, well, you're looking at rainy skies, a high of 14 Celsius. And we go over to Perth, and currently it's 12. You're going to get to a high of 18 with sunny skies. And we jump up to Port Hedland. Port Hedland, you can anticipate partly sunny skies and a high of 27 Celsius. Darwin, well, you're at 21 right now, which is not your high. You're going to only make it up to 33 Celsius today with bright sunny skies. Cairns, well, it's 21 right now. Your high is going to be 26 in sunny skies. And let's not forget our friends in Alice Springs. Well, it's going to get to a high of 28 sunny skies today. South Australia, you can anticipate sunny skies with the temperatures in the mid-20s. Queensland, well, you can anticipate sunny skies with your temperatures being in the low 30s, high 20s. All right. Did I forget anybody? New South Wales, you can anticipate, well, your high is only going to be up towards 20 with cloudy skies. And over in the west, you can anticipate 21 with sunny skies. All right. Hopefully I did that better today. So I apologize to all my viewers. Thank you for bearing with me in my stupid English illiteracy. So, or US, whatever. We do metric or Celsius. All right. So we talked about the heat, and we see that Florida, you're in the extreme going up into Georgia along the coastline from Virginia down to, well, almost Savannah. And then most of the panhandle, code orange. We have code red out in LA up through Arizona, New Mexico. That's going to extend up to the Dakotas where that front's pushing through, and it's going to give us a little bit of stormy activity. And let's see real quick. And we pretty much covered that. And we look at fires in the United States, and we don't see anything new except those to the Rockies. I had a Canadian author on last night, and she said that some parts of the country were getting hammered while others were not. So it looks those to the west of Ontario or Ottawa are the areas in Canada getting the fires. Look at the air quality, and with the air sitting still, it's probably going to be kind of rough today. Let's see. Yesterday, and we're still waiting on it. And air quality is pretty good unless you're down around the panhandle or up in the northwest, specifically in the Rockies in Idaho. So that must be a fire there. And along the Atlantic coastline, let's look real quick at the fire and smoke map, and we can see, well, for a change, we're sending from the Rockies fires smoke into Canada and down in the Midwest into Mexico. All right, the air quality way over, and I really appreciate your exhibit. Erin, that is, still drawing in some dusty water, which is cooling her down. And so offshore, we don't see a whole lot coming here. And the break right there is where that tropical depression number 3 is. We'll see how much energy it can gain in the warm waters without the dust affecting it. So that one's one to be watched. And let's see, we talked about space prediction and volcanoes. Well, currently we have Kilauea at a watch activation of orange, and the Great Sitkin, they are also a watch activation. Can't talk. They're at a code orange as well. It's because I've talked for 2 hours. Let's see. This is volcanic and earthquake activity for the past 24 hours. Let's go over here. I like this map better. And let's zoom out and bring in most places. And let's rule this down to the last hour and see where the most recent ones were. And the most recent, Northern California, they had a 2.4. And it looks like Western Texas, you had a 2.1. Those are those recent ones in the United States. And let's see, when was this one? Western Australia, you had a 2.5, but that was today or yesterday for you. So, all right. So we see that. And finally, we're going to see there are no tsunami warnings, watches, or threats for the United States. And this is going to take a minute to draw a bit. Let's look over here. This will take a minute to draw too. Huh? We might just avoid these for the. Yeah, these take so long to draw because there's so many notifications. 32 new notifications. Let's just hit the highlights real quick. Severe thunderstorms in Ontario. There's a squall wildfire in the northwest. And let's see, flooding, wildfire, volcano in Indonesia, and flooding, excessive heat in the northeast. Well, hopefully the cold front's going to take care of that. Wildfires. Let's see, we talked about that. Coastal flooding and air qualities. Okay, so Italy is having some severe storms if anyone's listening to me in Italy. All right, we're going to look real quick at the marine traffic. I'm primarily looking to see, not that close in. If you see here, what a great wide area they're giving Erin there. And remember, some of our ships are trying to make it to down here now. So I'd say if they were hugging the coastline, they've probably moved out and they're going to be getting down there more exponentially. And let's see. We looked at this earlier when we were talking about the breaking news. Let's take in to see if there's anything. Try not to give away any operations ongoing, but it's always a good idea to see what's going on. That's a spy plane. It looks like it's been up and flying out of Savannah. All right. They're going to be checking you out down there. And don't see anything major there. What do we have here? Little teeny tiny bird. And, well, it's a Dominican, and it's not really saying what it is, and it's coming out of the islands. All right, good for them. And we really don't see any activity down here, which I would expect. But I'm sure from here to there is probably not much of a jaunt. And that is a transport plane. They're not telling you where they went, neither is that one. And, all right, over here on the West Coast, Slam 92. Well, it's a transport. It looks like it's not telling us where it's been either. And this one either. They're not telling us really where they were or what they were doing. So that's okay. We're happy for that. We know that the military is out protecting us. All right. I'm going to get out of here in a minute because I have talked for almost 2 hours. There's a Gulf string. That's probably a dignitary. That's probably coming out of there. That's probably a Secretary the Homeland. All right, let's see. Make sure I don't have anything else here. No, there was no new warnings. Let's see if they put anything down there. Nope. All right, let's wrap this up for the day because I am at my 2-hour limit on Radio X, Dare Talk Radio, and Yerg's Radio. I want to thank everybody for allowing me to tickle your ears if you're listening to us there. And if you're watching us for the first time, we welcome Channel 12 News Network coming into us. We should have shows streaming soon there. So it is the Channel 12 TV network. Please go make sure to check out the Channel TV 12 network. You can find us over there. It's $9.99 a month, or it's like $100 for a year. Subscribe, tell them Sportcat sent you, and we're going to try and get some stuff that is unique over there for them. So everybody, I want to thank you. Have a great day. I will see you if you're watching us tonight. We have the Big Brother show. We will be live after the live eviction. That's going to be a good show. It's probably going to be a little exciting too. So looking forward to that. Maybe we'll see some flames and some fights, and I don't know, maybe Julie will get and do a karate chop or something. Everybody have a great day. Sportcat, I am out of here. I apparently got to go walk Hellhound, so I'll see you soon. Let's try this again, because it apparently was not loading.